do they call it?
Piers.
Piers, that's what I was looking for.
And try to yank them out. So I remember when I was a kid and that they finally did away with the nets. There was a real, I mean, we had meetings after meetings where people were after fishing game to rebuild those, to reestablish those nets, and they were not successful in being able to do that.
So that was a nice source of fish for the surrounding people.
Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was easy to catch them.
Yeah, it was easy to catch them.
So this was those piers they're still there.
Some of them are still there, yeah.
Yeah, and
So
the
only purpose there was to.
Yeah, I always thought it had to do
net.
with logging, but
No, it didn't have
more
anything to do with logging.
it's more with fishing. Huh?
Yeah, yeah. So with Dr. Kirk, he grew this hospital so that by the 40s, this place is doing real well. What happened, Dr. Kirk became like the savior. He also became the downfall of the hospital. Because part of it had to do with what ended up with his health. He ended up contracting TB, tuberculosis. And eventually he lost a lung.
When was that?
That was in the 30s that he had.
It was common then.
Yes, it was. And he ended up losing a lung. And ended up, as a result of it, not being able to really withstand the cold winters. So he decided that he was going to be a doctor here in the warm months and go to Florida in the winter months. And at first, that really didn't have much of an impact, because what he did is that before he left, he always found a doctor to come and replace him while he was gone. So that worked for a while. But in the summer, when he'd come back, he'd want the business again.
Oh yeah.
So as long as the doctor that had come was coming with the anticipation of only being here for a short period of time, that was okay. But some of them decided that they wanted to really stay, and so they started looking around. One of them was Dr. Hungs.
Oh yeah.
Dr. Hungs was here for 6 years, and then eventually went to Fort Kent. And he went to Fort Kent when they built the hospital in Fort Kent. And he became their chief surgeon over there. So basically, he and Dr. Kirk, although they had started working together, ended up being competitors there. But that was the beginning of the downfall of this hospital, because when Kirk had a hard time now over the time finding people to come who were willing to give up their practice once he came back, then the hospital was for months without a doctor. And if they did find a doctor, sometimes the doctor he would find was not a surgeon. So now they had a doctor who couldn't do surgery. So the surgery now had to go to Fort Kent. So, however, that in 1951, when Fort Kent opened up People's Benevolent Hospital, the nuns here were helpful in their organization was very helpful in getting that hospital open.
In Fort Kent.
In Fort Kent, yeah. And by the 1960s, the nuns were getting pretty. They were very much thinking that Northern Maine General Hospital would not be able to withstand, because they simply could not get a doctor to stay all the time. And they couldn't get that doctor because really of the way Dr. Kirk wanted to practice.
Yeah.
So I think they started losing faith in the hospital here. And in 1966, they gave 2 weeks' notice that they were closing the hospital.
Wow.
And they gave that 2 weeks' notice to the board at the time. Now the board at the time was made up basically, well, there were 3 people at the time, just before the hospital closed. It was Gilbert Michaud, Philip Blanchette. Gilbert Michaud was the postmaster. Philip Blanchette, who was a store owner, and John St. Peter.
From Placid.
From Placid, yeah. Those were the 3 people that were on the board. Eventually, just before the hospital closed, John Martin got involved. and became a board member.
That's when he started his career.
Yes,
In that-
around 1965, 66.
Yeah.
That's when he started. So those are the people that were told that the hospital was closing. And they got 2 weeks' notice. Now, there are no minutes at all
Is that
to
right?
any board meetings because they were never able to get from the nuns financials. The only financials that they ever got were oral. There was never any written financials, never any audits, nothing like that done. So when they told them that they were closing the hospital, and the trustees asked, well, how much money is here? They were told it was $40,000. So I remember Philip telling me that he couldn't believe that this hospital, having done what it had done, had only $40,000. But they didn't want to push it because they didn't want the nuns to leave. Because without the nuns, they knew they didn't have a hospital. So they pretty much just
Now,
took their
that
word
time
for it.
there, Fort Kent has been in existence 15 years.
That's right.
So, did they have quite a few patients that still came here?
Oh yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Oh yeah. No, they had quite a few patients over here. Well, when Dr. Kirk was here, the hospital was full. But the issue was, when he left all winter long, then there was really no hospital anymore.
Now, amongst do you know what year he came in?
It would have been.
Mid-40s?
Yeah, probably in the mid-40s, yeah.
He's from Pennsylvania, I think.
Yeah, don't know that much about
I
him.
wonder what brought him up here. Was it Kirk? Did he have a
Yeah,
connection?
no, Kirk brought him up here because Kirk was going to Florida.
Okay.
So he was one of the first doctors that Kirk brought up here.
And then he wouldn't let him stay or something?
Well, he didn't want to share. He didn't want to share his practice.
Yeah.
So I remember Kirk. If you went to see another doctor, he'd come to your house and
Tell you off.
and tell you off. Because if he was your family doctor, he couldn't understand why you would change.
Oh, yeah.
So I remember my mother had one delivery that she had someone else other than him do it, and he came to my parents' house and he asked my mother what was wrong with his ability to help deliver. He had delivered all of us, so why would she worry about this one?
Oh, boy.
And I know that she felt pretty bad about it, but she was she had decided that she did not want to have Dr. Kirk as her doctor anymore, and she had made that decision. But Dr. Kirk didn't like that decision at all.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. So he wasn't too kind to some of the people that he brought in here when he came back. He expected them to go.
Yeah.
And a lot of them did without any problems. But we had a Dr. Sterling. We had a Dr. Betts. Dr. Betts was an Englishman right from England. He came here with an umbrella and one of those hats there.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, it took the people a little bit of time there to adjust to him because they first of all, they weren't used to the accent, and then the way he dressed. And he always walked around with an umbrella.
Now, Sterling, did he go to Fort Kent?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
And Sterling also was someone very different in the area because he was our first black doctor.
Right.
Okay.
See, I don't think I ever met him. He must have left before I...
Yeah.
I've been here since '63, and I've heard of him. Maybe he was here a year or two after I was here. But,
Yeah.
So he was from away too. From
Yes, he was.
Down country.
Yeah, not all the doctors that came to the hospital here, along with Kirk, were all from away.
Yeah.
Dr. Johnson was another one.
Right, from Canada.
Yeah.
And of course, in town in Fort Kent, we had Dr. Albert and
Right.
Savage and Toussaint.
Yes.
These were local people there.
Yeah.
And they practiced there before the hospital was there, I think.
Yes, they did. Because Dr. Albert practiced here.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
So the doctors in Fort Kent, before their hospital was built,
Came here.
would come here.
That's right.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Savage, Toussaint, Albert.
Yes.
Okay, that's what.
Willett, Father Willett, Dr. Willett.
But he probably came to you after the hospital, huh? Was he?
Yeah, he was, but I know that he came here as well.
Came here too?
So by then, it was 1966, and the hospital was going to close. And now no one, it was like, what's going to happen now? And if it wouldn't have been for Philip Blanchette, well, really, there are two people. Philip Blanchette pushed hard, but John St. Peter and John Martin are the ones who saved the day.
Really?
Yeah, because they're the ones who went to the bishop. And yeah.
Now John's a young.
Oh yeah,
man.
he's only in his 20s at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
early 20s.
And John St. Peter told me a story when he first hired me. My first job, by the way, was working here when I was 16 years old. John St. Peter hired me here to dig sonotubes by hand. And I was in high school at the time, and I needed a job real bad, and John St. Peter gave me a job over here. So my first real job was working at Northern Maine General. Probably be my last job too, working here. But
So you were going to high school in Fort Kent?
yeah, I was going to high school in Fort Kent. And John St. Peter told me a story that when they closed the hospital, he and John Martin made an appointment to go see the bishop. And apparently the bishop was not too enthused about seeing them. So when they got there, they were seated in the lobby and they waited. And apparently they waited. It was in the late part of the afternoon, and they still hadn't seen the bishop. And they were pretty much told that they probably wouldn't be able to see the bishop. And John St. Peter said, if I don't see him today, I'll see him sometimes because I'm not leaving. And apparently, not much time later, the bishop came and had a meeting with them. The result of the meeting eventually was that the church turned over ownership of Northern Maine General to the board, so that the board became the operating force, still under the same charter. But
Where were the nuns there?
Well, the nuns wanted to sell the place, but what they didn't have is they didn't have the deed. So the bishop was going to either sell the place to the community, the Franciscans, or sell it to liquidate it in one fashion or another. So they convinced the bishop that he was going to sell it. He was not going to sell it, that it was going to be operated by a board that was going to be appointed like the charter had said. So the agreement was that the parish priest was going to be the president instead of the bishop, and then there would be eventually four other members.
So the church, the diocese still owned it,
They still owned it.
the building?
Yes, they still owned all of the assets.
Okay.
All the assets, except the capital, except the working capital. That was owned by the Franciscans, or the hospitals,
Yeah.
or the hospital. But they left the board here with $40,000 and no records. No records. There is no records of the hospital at all here. No financial records whatsoever.
Isn't that something? Huh?
The rumor is that they either burned them or they took them to the mother house. But there are no records of the hospital here.
Now, do you know why such a quick exit?
Well, they had already made a decision that it was Fort Kent they were going to support,
Okay.
and no longer Eagle Lake.
Okay.
So what happened is that John Martin and John St. Peter had heard about it, so they went to Fort Kent, and they got, I believe, two nurses that was working in Fort Kent to agree to come here when the hospital closed to take over the hospital.
Oh.
So and that's what happened. When the hospital closed, those two nurses came, and they became the first people to run the hospital that were not of a religious order.
Okay.
And that was Maria Devoe.
Oh yeah.
Okay, she was an RN, and I believe the other one was Maxine. She was also a nurse at the Fort Kent, I believe.
Not Lorraine Cody?
No,
Was she a nurse?
Maxine Mazzaro or something like that.
Okay.
But they were the first two people that came here after
Now,
the nuns left.
Where's Kirk?
Kirk is still floating around.
In 66.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's got his office there at his house.
Okay.
So he's practicing medicine there. And then when they closed here, there were people here. There were people here.
You mean patients?
Oh yeah, there were patients here. So they maintained the patients. They got doctors to come in, and they didn't accept any new patients, but the patients that were here, they kept them until they were able to be released. And then they had people that over time had become boarders there at the hospital, because they were operating like a hospital and almost like a little boarding home. So we had 3 or 4 people that were living there as boarders.
Now, besides the nuns, they had people working there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, all kinds
Oh
of
yeah.
stuff.
Yes, you did.
Cleaning and
Right.
and cooking.
Yeah, cooking.
So these were still there when the nuns
Oh yes, they were still there.
Now at the same time, they were having a big crisis in the Catholic Church. So the Vatican II comes along,
Right.
and a lot of nuns leave,
Right.
and it's a big crisis.
Mm.
And so maybe that was part of it too. I don't know.
Yeah, I really don't know, other than what I've been told by some of the people that were on the board as to what the reason was for closing the hospital. Primary reason was the doctor, lack of consistency in having a doctor. That was the primary reason, and then I think the nuns over time just saw that if they couldn't make that change, they'd never be able to have a hospital that really worked. And so they decided to throw their weight and their support with a hospital that had already been able to do that, which was in Fort Kent.
So how long did the hospital last with those 2 nurses and that?
Well, what happened is that it lasted about a year. During that time, we had a new parish priest that came on board, Father Perry. And in 1967, Father Perry contacted a different religious order. He contacted Sister Dennis, who led the Mercy Sisters, and convinced Sister Dennis to have the Mercy start a mission in Eagle Lake. And eventually, and he was able to do it. And she sent 5 nuns here. She sent Sister Fatima, Sister Celine, Sister Celeste, and Sister Caroline.
Now, Sister Celine, that was a Martin from Madawaska.
Yes, she was a Martin from Madawaska. Yeah. And she was appointed business manager when she came. She preferred to play the organ, but she was a business manager.
Very, very well liked.
Oh yes, she was.
Now that's from the Martin family. Her brother created the Paul Bunyan statue in Bangor.
Yes.
Norman Martin.
Yes.
And there was a big Martin family there in Madawaska.
Yeah, and Sister Celine, on her mother's side, was a Raymond. And I can trace my ancestry to her, so she's one of the few there that. So we used to joke about that we were like related there. But yeah, she was a very nice lady there.
So how long did you say? Okay, 1 year later.
Yeah, 1 year later, they're the ones that are here. They do pretty much what the Franciscan sisters did. They came here. There was no hope really. Just an idea of trying to keep the place alive. And they came up, the board said, look, one of the things that we don't have around here is we don't have long-term care. So why don't we convert this to long-term care? And that became their mission.
Okay.
And they did. They opened up at the time it was called boarding home, nursing and boarding home. They took the hospital itself, the building, and then one section was boarding and another section was nursing home. They're the ones who ran it. They're the ones who trained people to help, and they ran it until 1973 that way. And in 1973, they built the nursing home, which was a 60-bed facility. It was the newest nursing home in the St. John Valley.
They did
Yeah, yeah.
that order of sisters.
Yes, that order of sisters. The board was instrumental in getting the financing for it and stuff. John especially was instrumental in being able to convince, well, today it's called rural development, but in those days it was called FHA, to provide a loan.
John Mark.
Yes, to provide a loan for that idea, and they built a brand new facility, and Sister Fatima became the administrator. And then they separated it. The hospital building became strictly boarding, 40-bed facility.
Now boarding means what?
Boarding is assisted living. Yeah, you can go out. Yeah.
You can have a car.
You can have a car. You can
go dancing.
Yeah,
yeah. They just help you to.
They help you. They provide. You cannot live by yourself normally, if you're in boarding, because you've got some health issues. You may need supervision with medication. You may not be able to cook. You may not be able to provide yourself with laundry and stuff. So
would you be, let's say, disabled and be
you
boarding?
could very well be disabled. You could very well be disabled.
Even though you might need a wheelchair? No?
Yeah, yes, even though you could need a new wheelchair.
Okay.
We had people, for example, who were amputees.
Okay.
That were there living as boarders.
So now you've got a great thing here going.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yes, we do.
Where's Kirk in all this?
Kirk hasn't left. Now Kirk comes in every day to see the boarders, and he charges them $5 every time he sees them. So he becomes the medical director of the nursing home.
Okay.
So he doesn't lose anything.
Yeah.
And in the wintertime, he still goes.
And $5 was a going price for an office visit.
Oh yeah, it was. So
yeah.
He didn't really feel any impact because.
Now, how old is he by that time?
Oh, he's pretty old.
He came here in 26.
Yeah, he came here in 26 and he died in
least,
77.
He was at least born in 1900, so
yeah.
Now he's in his mid-60s.
Oh, older than that.
Older than that?
Oh yeah, he's in his late 70s.
Yeah. Did he ever have a family here?
Yes, he did.
He did?
Yes, he did. Yeah. He had, they're all older than I am, so I never got to know them. But I know that he had a couple of sons, I believe, a couple of daughters. In fact, I met one of his daughters. I met some of his family when we celebrated our centennial. They came from.
When was that? Oh,
it was 2007.
2007, yeah.
A group of them came from California. They're living presently in California, and then there's another group of them that were living in Massachusetts.
So this was their home.
Yeah, they came here. Yeah.
They had a connection here.
Yeah, in fact, I believe he had a son that got killed here.
Oh, is that right?
Playing baseball.
Really? Now, how old is the town of Eagle Lake? Older than the hospital?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Town of Eagle Lake started in the 1850s,
Okay.
around 1856. But it got incorporated only in 1913.
Okay.
So they celebrated their incorporation this, 1911, that the town was incorporated.
Okay.
So
yeah, there was a celebration.
yeah, they celebrated their
last year.
100-year incorporation. Yeah. But the town was really established in 1856.
Yeah, it's like Fort Kent. We celebrated in '69.
Yes.
But the town had been there since the Aroostook War.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a little break here because my battery's getting short again.
Okay.
We'll go look at some pictures.
Okay.
Reynold, while we're here, this is a brand new building we're in.
Yes. This is a brand new office building.
Is that picture in this hall here of it?
Yes.
Let's look at that right now, and you can explain it to me.
Come this way.
Oh, it's not this one.
No, this building.
The one right here.
Yes.
On the left.
That's correct.
That's the building we're in right now.
That's correct.
That's about a year old.
Yes. And it was built on the site that used to be the resident building for the nuns.
Okay, Le Couvent.
Yes. Okay.
All right, and there's the next to it is the office building for the doctors who
that's
practice Fish River.
That's Fish River, yeah.
Yeah.
And then below, going down the road, The first building that you see,
Okay.
that's the aquatic pool.
Oh, that's right.
We have an aquatic pool there where we provide therapy, both land and aquatic. And then the building adjacent to that is the gym building,
Okay.
and that's connected right here to this building. But that's the building that we provide day program services to adults with developmental disabilities.
Now, did you say the big building on the left? Now, what's that again?
That's our gym building.
Okay, that's your gym.
Yeah, gym building and classroom building.
So that's used for exercise and stuff.
Yeah, that's used for exercise.
And there's quite a few buildings there.
Yes, and the building right opposite the pool building, that's there are two waiver homes there. That's what we used to call Powell Memorial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you call them?
So one is called Mamie Home, which is a waiver home for 4 people that have developmental disabilities.
So
And the
that's
other
what
one-
a waiver home is?
Yes, and then the other one is Floyd Powell Waiver Home. Same
Okay.
thing, for
Thank
4
you,
people.
Paul, Northern Maine General, Linda speaking, how may I direct your
And
call?
then below
Alright.
that is our shop, which we use for storage,
Okay.
and then
Now, what's the connection with Powell here, Mamie and Red?
that facility or those facilities were named after them because she was a public health nurse
Okay,
and
yeah.
worked a lot with people who had mental retardation.
Okay.
And those facilities were started to help people with mental retardation.
Okay. And Red Powell was a
And Red Powell was
professor
her
at
husband. Yeah.
college.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So let's come back to this brand new building, which was the residence for the nuns. I remember that building.
Yeah, that was a 2-story building,
Yeah.
and it was replaced with this one,
Okay.
which is about double the size of the other building that we used to be in.
Okay. Now we're here at the original hospital, huh?
Yep, that's a whitish yellow building.
Yeah.
That's the building that was built in 1907. Not all of what you see there was built in 1907. It's a progress.
Yeah.
The last piece that was added to that building was somewhere around the late 1940s.
Okay.
And then the building with the blue roof, that's the nursing home.
Okay. That's the one that.
That's the one that was built in 1973 and added to in 1974, 75.
That's a big building.
Yes.
What's the capacity that you said?
That's a 60-bed facility.
Nursing home.
Yeah, 40 nursing and 10 assisted living right now.
Okay. And the original building is what again?
The original building right now is used as a mental health residential building.
And that's got 3 or 4 stories.
Yes, it is. In the 3 stories with a cellar. Yeah, the big building.
So
There
we're
are 16
talking,
people who live in that one now. Used to be 40, but we downsized it to 16 people, and we provide a residential setting to people with mental health needs.
Okay. So you are, again, let's repeat how many people are employed by Northern Maine General.
Between anywhere between 275 to 300.
That's amazing. Is that you say?
That's the newspaper article that was written by the Bangor Daily about this hospital in 1940 something.
46.
Yeah, and here's Dr. Kirk.
Okay, let me
And
zoom
here's
in on
Dr. There's
Dr. Kirk.
yeah, in his prime.
And the nuns.
And here's Dr. Hunks,
Oh, Dr. Hans.
who's performing an
Surgery.
appendectomy there.
Oh, yeah. So he was here quite a few years before Fort Kent opened.
Oh yes, yeah. He was here at least 6 years.
And then some. Now you're starting to see nurses besides the nuns, huh?
Yes, yes,
See, that's not a nun there.
No.
That's a nurse. Is that babies in there?
yes. Yeah.
And then over here's
That
another.
was a nursery.
Another.
That was
yeah.
that was what they used to call the wards.
Oh, okay. You had several beds, and
Yeah.
here's a sister Franciscan at the time,
Yeah.
right?
Franciscan. Yeah.
1940. Here they are again. Boy, they did a lot of good work up here, huh?
Yes, they did. That was Fish River Lumber Company right there.
Look at the houses behind the mill.
Yeah.
Holy